Hey everybody, welcome to Teamfight Talkshow. I am DoA. With me is Frodan, as always, and today we have a person that can get first place in a finals lobby of a tournament not once, not twice, not three times, but four times in a row. Few people have done that many, let alone in a row. It's amazing. Noobowl coming off an insane Challenger Series performance. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, just preparing for regionals, but yeah, pretty feeling pretty good after that weekend.
I think I would be too if I were playing and did that well. Frodan, how's your weekend been? How's your last couple weeks been? You and I was watching you play some games earlier. You were in the in-houses a little bit earlier today. I'm not going to ask what you saw. I'm not going to ask you to reveal anything. I'm just going to ask you how you're doing.
I'm doing great. This is the first time I've ever gotten to interact with Noobowl face to face, so that's really nice to see his handsome, charming, cute face. I think that there's a lot to talk about this week. Regionals is in a couple days, and I'm really excited for that. And they announced the World Championship details. So,
Yeah.
DoA, I am starving for TFT news. I'm so glad we got that information. So we got a lot to break down this week.
That's right. We have a ton to talk about. Actually, this is going to be a very full show. But before we get into it, I do want to get to know our guest a little bit more. Obviously, Noobowl, people know you from your performances in game and things like that. But I want to go deeper. I want to go into the past, and I want to ask you, what was the first game that kind of made you feel competitive? Where you're like, I got to beat people in this game. Was it TFT or was it something earlier?
Uh, Probably the first game probably was Hearthstone, I guess. Hearthstone,
Okay.
I kind of got notoriety back in 2016, I think. When I got like rank one NA and stuff in Hearthstone, so pretty lit, pretty lit. But then yeah, the competitive scene for Hearthstone was always a little bit unsustainable, I think. So I kind of stopped playing then. Also, I was in high school at the time, so I kind of had to do other things in life.
Probably
That
good to
wasn't just play
graduate too.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably good to do other things, but it was I feel like it put me on the map a little bit, so it was fun.
Nice. So that sparked your interest, and then that brought you to TFT, and here you are on the way to the NA regionals.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of other Hearthstone pros have actually done the same thing, moving to TFT. So
Well, we've
yeah.
Not
seen.
many have
Oh, go
been
ahead.
that successful. A lot of them like playing TFT casually, and casually for them still means like they get to challenger. They may play in like one or two tournaments, but they're not knee deep the way you are. So, what is it about TFT that has made you want to make that your main focus compared to how some of the other card game players, for example, still play Magic, or still play Hearthstone, they play TFT on the side?
Honestly, I mean, I wasn't playing any other games at the time when I started TFT, and I mean, I guess I just got good at it. I wasn't really expecting to be good at it, but I mean, I guess I was, so I just stuck to it. It's just a really fun game, you know. It's a really unique one. There haven't been many equivalents on the market, especially up until 2020 and all that stuff.
I agree.
So
Totally.
It really does strike that like card game itch too. And you mentioned earlier people coming into TFT from like other game spaces, and that's been one of the neatest things for me to see. Having like been in esports for a long time now, I'm like Dan can I know Dan can speak to this as well. Where we see players like Polt from StarCraft 2, who was like a huge brain player back in that space back in the day, playing for a little while before he joined T1 in a management role. And then we had like more recently Deepe, who is playing in Challenger Series. I knew him as the coach for LA Gladiators in the Overwatch League. And so it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I realized that I saw that name. I'm like, is that the same Deepe? Because like this was the guy, and I will say, not many people know this, but Deepe's pre-match like hype speeches were legendary in the Overwatch League studio. Like this guy would get all the players together and be like, "We're the best. We're gonna win today." Like he would go wild. Like he would bring the enthusiasm. So it's funny to think that now here he is like being one of the top NA players. So it's cool to see you get from other games. You know?
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of like peek behind the scenes at Overwatch League. I visited the arena a few times, actually, even just to say hi to you and Monty back in the day. Yeah, and we have Saint Vicious, right, known for being like
Right.
more of a brainy jungler than a mechanical one. We have Asa, former like poker player, now trying to focus on TFT. So yeah, I think TFT has really brought many people because it's really hard to find a group of gamers that haven't really touched League of Legends. And
Mhm.
then when you give them in a way to interact with the League of Legends IP that doesn't involve playing solo queue, it's fantastic.
I agree.
So I
I
think
agree.
TFT has some really great reach. There's like people I see all the time streaming category, like a lot of times their title's like one TFT game, and then we'll go back to like my normal thing, right? Like whether it's they're playing Valorant or Path of Exile, whatever game that they play. And it's always so interesting to see who actually dips back into TFT.
Well, I think we're going to see even more as time goes on. It's just a cool place to be. So, what were you going to say, Noobowl?
I was just going to say it's like super accessible as a game, so I think that's honestly the main draw for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said it's one of those games where you can be as like deep into it as you want to be, right? You can still get a lot of enjoyment playing at a surface level, like putting your board together and making synergies work and like, oh, I won a round or two, you know, but then there's that incredible depth that we know and love on the esports side. But we're going to talk a lot more about all of that stuff as we go on. But before we go any further, we have some augment choices to present to chat right now. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we do. And we've got some interesting ones today. Frodan, as usual, why don't you lead us through these?
That's right. So if you've been watching the show for several months now, you know that we're trying to lean into the theme of the set. So we have augments in the game. We're going to have augments in our podcast. So we get 3 choices for y'all to vote in the chat right now for those who are watching on the live broadcast. So option 1 will be Backfoot, where we prepare a pop twit longer quiz with the guests. It's actually kind of spicy, so it'll be fun if you want to do that. If you want to choose option 2, it's Recombobulator, where it's pretty light. We want to introduce an option that doesn't do too much tampering with the show. So we'll just rearrange the show topics. Maybe we'll do the tier list first. Maybe we do agree last. We'll know. We don't exactly know the actual order of it. It's mainly actually to tease our production person people behind it, just to make it harder for them.
More or less, yeah.
And the third one is Disintegrator, where everyone picks a champion to remove from this current set and explain why, aka an augment for us to just complain about what we don't like about TFT, if y'all want to indulge us in that. So go ahead and vote, and you have a few more seconds to get your votes in. Noobowl, is there anything that what are you gonna vote for? What are you gonna vote for?
Let's see. I don't do Disintegrator. I feel like complaining is always fun.
That'll spur some interesting discussion. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think that and Backfoot right now are in contention. I don't think anyone wants to make Kathy's life that much more difficult by rearranging the show topics.
One person does, apparently. We've got one person.
That was probably Kathy.
Oh, okay. There you go. We've got yeah, it's tied. It's like neck and neck with Backfoot and Disintegrator. Actually, this is one of our like closest augment races yet. I don't even know what we do if there's a tie. Maybe like revote with 2. I have no idea. Have we ever had a tie before? I don't think we have.
I don't even know how we settled a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Maybe in true TFT fashion, we just flip a coin.
Yeah, for sure.
That works for me.
It's basically the tiebreakers right now.
If you run out of time, it just picks randomly. So there you go. If we do both, I don't know. That would be oh yeah. Okay, chat is saying do both. I don't know if we're prepared to do that. That's not up to us.
Doing both. I mean, I think we could do both.
We could.
I'm okay with a little bit of a longer show. That ends up being the case.
It doesn't bother me, but we'll see. All right, it's still pretty.
It's actually because of the people that voted for Recombobulator that they're slanted.
Yeah,
they each could have voted for the other one though, so it still could have been tied. We need one person to break the tie. I know there's somebody in chat right now that's like thinking about it. They know they can make the difference. We know Recombobulator's not going to be it. It's going to be Backfoot versus Disintegrator. So the question is, one more for Disintegrator. The person voted. Is there another person out there?
All right.
My God.
We're getting people in. All right, Disintegrator it is.
All right.
I guess
Well, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. So we've got some time to think about what champion we would remove from the set and why. We'll get around to that anyway. But before we do, there's going to be a lot of news to talk about because we just have a lot of news. We'll start out with something pretty easy. The C patch came out. Basically just bug fixes, but there were some pretty large bug fixes too. Some stuff people didn't know about, some people were well aware of, like with the Aurelia thing. In your opinion, Noobowl, what one of these makes kind of the biggest difference going forward looking at NA regionals?
I think everyone would agree that the socialite change was kind of crazy, kind of last minute. It's basically a balance patch, like 2 days before the tournament, so I'm not really sure if it should have gone through, to be completely honest. The game was sort of, I mean, I guess it's always fine to shake up the meta a little bit beforehand, but it does like make prep that happened before the C patch a little less valid. So the other bugs are they're really they're like unit specific, but Socialite's been like such a keystone of the entire set so far actually. So.
So what do you think, Frodan?
Yeah, I would say that I agree with Noobowl in the sense that it's good that they fixed the bugs, and ultimately these bugs, some of them were just so inherently frustrated. Like the Irelia mana bug was
Yeah.
probably the biggest one. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people hit Irelia 3 and then lose almost immediately afterwards because she can't generate mana, and as a result, just becomes this very expensive and clunky auto attack champion that doesn't actually do anything. So I think that's really important. But then all of a sudden, there's like the situation where the Irelia all of a sudden gets buffed, and she's already like one of the premier carries of the current patch. And so they realized that having Socialite 2, 3, and 5 was giving more damage, so that actually nerfs her in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the meta was actually starting to move a little bit away from Irelia anyways, because we started developing Sivir builds, we started developing like more fluid Draven lines, and people started understanding how to play around even other AD carries to temporarily get to those spots like Gnar. So I think that it's really interesting how this patch has played out. I think overall, like I think that doing this kind of last minute change isn't going to have the biggest effect. But I'm generally not a fan of like trying to make people play on new patches. And once again, here we are, regionals, a new patch, and 2 days later we compete. And somehow we keep ending up at this exact spot, despite it not being our intention.
Well, it was interesting too because we did go through more time with this B patch than we had really with any other patch as far as I can recall for a long time at least. And so talking about people beginning to find ways to play around the Aurelia and all that, like this is stuff that a lot of us said would happen if a patch lasted longer. And here it did, and that was cool, and that's more evidence for what I've been saying for a while, which is I wish there would be more time between patches in general, but now we do have these changes, so it is going to be a bit of an adjustment. At least there's a couple days, but I don't know. I'm torn on it because I don't like the idea of bugs, especially arguably significant bugs, having an impact on something like the regionals, deciding who goes to Worlds. But at the same time, it is a hassle, right, to kind of like have to adjust to this. But like. What would you pick if you could be the one choosing Noobowl? Would you keep the bugs intact, or knowing that they could affect things in a way you didn't like in the moment in the tournament, or would you prefer the fix so that things were going to be played a little bit more straight up, for lack of a better term?
I'd probably just keep Socialite as is, to be honest. I think the other bugs are great to fix because they're like interaction based. And it just feels really bad when it's like a all or nothing type thing, right? If Aurelia gets locked out of generating mana. Although I really don't think that bug was super impactful from a balance point of view, because I honestly have not seen it happen like... I feel like it happens like once a game if you play Aurelia, or even less on average. So it's not like super impactful, it's just frustrating. The Socialite thing was, honestly I think it was fine to keep in. But I mean, it's also fine to cut it, I guess. It's always an equal playing field. It is a pretty impactful thing though, like 10% damage at Socialite Free is such a huge deal, to be honest. It's almost like another item. So we'll see how things progress,
Well, I think the other thing too is I think Mort in chat makes like a really good point right now, where he says, "I worry about someone discovering the bug post tourney, mathing it out, and then claiming someone lost due to a bug." I think that's a very, very important factor because it's likely that somebody would do that. That's happened a lot, and it's kind of, if you look at it from the balance team side too, I think it's like, how do you win in this situation, right? Where it's like, exactly. Either you run that risk or you do this patch, and then there's other kind of like side sort of like negative aspect that comes with it, so that's why I'm personally more in favor of just doing the patch and just saying, all right, well, the game is just being played at a straight up level, right? No bugs, that we know of, or all the major ones are kind of taken care of, rather than letting it be buggy and then having that be a thing that puts an asterisk next to somebody's performance in a regionals, because I don't think that's fair to the players who work that hard, and then like somebody can say they only won because of a bug, right? Or they feel like that.
Sure.
So
sure, and it goes both ways too, because I think one thing we haven't really talked about was the True Justice bug. For people who don't know, True Justice, an augment that got buffed to deal 80%, or sorry, if your opponent's health dropped below 80%, all of a sudden your forces would do true damage. And so people started trying it out. They realized that if you put Giant Slayer, it actually double dips on it. And so Giant Slayer Jace, or even whatever, if you put on Vi or Caitlyn, would just actually destroy everything and just would be completely imbalanced. And now it's going the opposite direction, where I'm not sure if I'm really allowed to say it, but there might be some more problems with True Justice. So either way, it's good that they're fixing these bugs beforehand, because it would just feel so bad if all this work went out the window and regionals slash worlds was determined solely because people found bugged interactions, and that's not really the kind of skills we want to reward in TF2. We want to reward more interesting skill sets that I think are more important as opposed to simply abusing bugs whenever they're presented to you.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, go ahead.
The one thing I'll say is that I think it's fine if there's bugs in the game, as long as they're known. They just sort of just become part of the balance. I mean, right now there's like a million bugs. There's like more Aurelia scrap bugs where you can just instantly lose the game or like instantly lose a component, which is a really big deal. There's like ghost boards, which are like basically free wins in a lot of ways, but they're not supposed to be. Like the game's just balanced around that right now, or like it's always an equivalent playing field. So I personally think it's fine if there's one more bug out of like 10, 50, however many bugs there are right now. There's so many.
Sure.
I think you're right to bring that up too, because that's kind of like something that just comes with the territory of having like a very complex game like Teamfight Tactics. And like, once again, I will go back to StarCraft as an example here, where like that game was so big that it just was impossible to get rid of all the bugs. There would always be something, and people would know about them, and then they kind of became a part of gameplay to the extent that something like drone drilling, which it was technically a bug as far as I know in StarCraft 1, which is where you could make your workers go through units to get to by clicking on minerals resources behind them, that was incorporated as a feature in StarCraft 2, where that was just part of the game, where gatherer units could move through other units rather than getting stuck and body blocked by them if you clicked on a mineral. So over time, that's the other side of it too, is you kind of find stuff that people like, and then it's just like, all right, well, we'll just make this officially part of the game too. But it's a topic I feel like we could have a whole another like 30-minute discussion about, but we have to move on with the news. There was a bit of a Set 7 teaser that came out. I believe he was talking on a stream about this, if I recall correctly. And he said the thing they're working on for Set 7, I think, will make a lot of people who miss Armory happy. And I also think it will do it in a healthier and more interesting way. And that's interesting because the Armory is something a lot of people liked. I feel like now we have augments, which is something a lot of people liked. So like, what do you like more, the augment style or the armory style of having that choice thrown at you at several times during the game? What do you think, Noobowl?
I feel like augments are kind of cool in that they introduce a lot of effects that you can't really easily put in the game otherwise. They're like basically new traits in a lot of ways. But armories are a lot more, I suppose, narrow, I guess, which is for better or for worse. Playing for augments with this set was a lot more fun than armories, in my opinion. But who knows? Who knows what it would do? They would do both, honestly. That might be fun. I think just having choice is just fun. Just having choice.
Yes. I agree there.
TFT is a game of incredible variance. Like no one can ever deny that there's a ton of randomness that happens in TFT. But what makes it quite interesting and brilliant is how you temper that, and you have the ability to do that with armories almost to a fault at times. I mean, I think that part of it was that very similar to how people like lose streak for carousel, right? You just get to pick the same things every single time. That's not necessarily a good thing, even though that's what players think they want a lot of the times. They see, like, okay, all I need is just like this one tier on carousel, and then finally I can play my composition. Mm-hmm. There's no tier on the carousel. They get really upset, and they flame Riot for that, specifically Mort Dog. And it's like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I think in the player's mind, they're pretty much resolved that it's just a bad thing. But, in a lot of ways, it feels like armories encourage that kind of behavior, which is like, do you have to learn the game outside of exactly what you're tunneled and focused upon? I'm sure if you ask certain players who like to play open and flex, maybe like Noobowl, they probably say that's not necessarily a good thing. They can always just 20 at 20, same exact 7 item set that you want for your composition, because that takes a lot of fun out of TFT from a lot of people's perspectives.
Yeah, I think the thing that's important to remember is that we said that he said it's something that for people that miss armory, right? Which doesn't mean armory; it means an armory-like mechanic. So I think we need to also kind of like think of it in a little bit different terms. That like it's not going to be that exact same thing, and so we shouldn't be judging it against augments. I personally, if you just take the armory thing we had in set 5 versus the augment thing we've got now in a vacuum, I will definitely pick augments. But I'm not opposed to seeing Armory-like mechanics come out in the next set, and I'm really curious to see what they're going to come up with, because I think it's definitely a system that appealed to a lot of people, and it's something you could probably build something pretty cool off of. So you know, leak more information, more. We're curious. We want to know more. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right,
just
set 7.
I hope they make it flashy at least, no matter what they do. I think that's honestly the best mechanics have always been the flashiest ones, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a dragon expansion, right? We know that, don't we? So it's like, or expansion set. So you know, that sounds flashy just by nature. So you know, fingers crossed. But I don't think we're too worried. Moving on with the news. There was a little bit of fan art. We don't cover fan art very often on the show, but this is an exception because this little legend looks pretty awesome. I would pay real dollars for this, I think.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of cute.
The cosmetics in TFT, they're really cool. I also feel like they could even be improved in a lot of ways, and I just thought it was really neat that we got to see some fan art that looked like really awesome little legends that people would even go and buy, and perhaps even inspire Riot to maybe message those artists a little bit more and hire them directly. I don't know. Maybe this is a way that people can boost their portfolio, but this one looks really cool, like kind of a chroma party glow up little power icons. It's like ravey. It's very, very cool. I like it a lot.
Looks very neon nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. What little legend do you use right now, Noobowl?
I use a Lantern Chonk. Reminds me of my cats. So
that's a valid reason. That's like one of the best reasons I've heard for like picking a particular little legend. Actually,
yes.
Actually, it's real life throwback or callback, I guess. Yeah, but kind of going off what Dan said, yeah, if you're an artist out there, doing things like this is one of the best ways to get noticed. Yeah, I mean, like it sounds cliche, but this applies to if you want to cast or you want to make content in esports. Like the first thing you got to do is just do it. Yeah, exactly. Because if you're doing it, you're practicing and you're getting better. And you're also showing people that you can produce good stuff and you're improving over time. So yeah, this is the person who made this, you know, if they're making a lot of that kind of thing, that's great resume material for sure. Yeah.
I think we can all agree that TFT could stand to entice us to spend more money. I feel like this game is just a little bit too free. Like just a little bit. I'm not asking for much. I'm just saying like I just give me the compulsion, the desire to want to spend more money. Just a little bit. Because right now it's at like a 2. I just want it to go like to a 3 or a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Just don't be pay to win ever. Like I know they would never do that, but you know, that's always the one concern in the back of everyone's mind, you know. Your little legend does like 1 extra damage to your opponent per round. Like imagine that. Yeah. Oh no, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
If they were to power gate it, it would probably. I actually talked about this on stream the other day. It was like the best way to power gate TFT to make money would be that you get a 4th augment choice if you pay 10.
Hey DoA, I'm super happy.
That's true.
Because that's legitimately what they do in Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you do literally get an extra choice. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Well, now we're getting into kind of the meat of the news. Part of it is the Twitlongers. That's right. There were more Twitlongers that came out. Dasik from the EU region released one, and I'm trying to remember. I read like all of these today. I reread all of these. So I'm trying to remember exactly his. Have you read this one yet, Noobowl?
I don't think I have, or I might have skimmed through it. I'm not sure.
All right, Dan? Any opinions?
Maybe I'll bring it up.
Yeah. I feel like we've gotten so many of them. I'm trying to like remember all of them. I'm skimming through it again right now. Yeah.
So Day6, the summary of Day6 Twitlogger is just basically a more in-depth version of sort of the balance complaints that a lot of people have, which a lot of the augments don't necessarily feel interesting and rewarding in terms of their choice. I don't think he necessarily brought up this example, but one that's been talked about a lot is about how having specific cost champion augments offered at different junctures of the game after the early game feels really bad. Like if you get featherweights at the end of a game, it's a pretty binary choice. Either it's really exactly what your comp needs because you're re-rolling like Twitch or Warwick, or you don't have anything relevant and all your 2 costs are pretty much like support units like a Zyra. And why would you ever even consider this? It's not an interesting choice. And so that concept, the idea that there's a lot of things that don't feel like it's interesting, it doesn't feel rewarding, it feels like high variance as well, because getting offered something like featherweights in that situation feels like you're getting an augment down. Just takes out a lot of the enjoyment of what should be one of the most fun parts of the game. And then talks a little bit about some other stuff, like whether or not like certain design elements, or, like whether or not he agrees with it. It's quite in depth, and honestly, for a non-native speaker, it was pretty well written for especially a guy from Russia. So I think it's worth a read if you're just like into that idea, into like reading about what player thoughts are. But overall, it's really nothing new either. It feels like it's been talked about at length.
Yeah. I can sort of see what it means. I feel like I don't know if I can like word it, but I feel like there is like something off about the augment system this set. It's just maybe too many occurrences of like just poor choices. I feel like it's maybe the best way to word it. And I mean, maybe that's just a design decision. Like there should be more unoptimal, or like there should be more like of these super power extreme augments, which usually don't fit, but sometimes if they fit really well, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe set 6 it felt better, but I can't recall, to be honest.
Yeah, I will say once in a while these crazy narrow augments ends up feeling like it's kind of a supernova effect where like you just can't believe it actually worked out this way. I watched a game where someone took Battle Mage and it was just awful. I think you can actually look at his Goobums' profile and his normals. He picked Battle Mage and reroll Warwick, and he was like, I can't believe I have to pick Battle Mage. Just kind of talking about it, as like, oh, I'm down an augment, etc. His next augment, I believe, was Jeweled Lotus. So then he ended up like having more AP stacking, and then all of a sudden everything started critting. And then he took Chemtech Explosion, which I think, according to him, allowed his Chemtech Explosion to crit. So it was like a really weird like situation where all these 3 augments somehow created like a really cool comp out of nowhere that he wasn't expecting. And so once in a while, some of these quote unpickable augments create some funny situations. And I just felt like as much as we could sit here and criticize, sometimes you have these really awesome stories to tell from unusual augment combinations, even though they look on paper pretty useless.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the trade-off. It's definitely like the more narrow things you have, the more narrow power extreme things you have, the more likely it is that you get like something that feels kind of bad on average, but then sometimes you have like super power extreme combinations which feel really fun to play with. It's just like that trade-off, I guess. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's definitely like more present in this set, I think. There's just more of that stuff going on.
For sure.
Yeah. Feels like in the future, if augments return at some point, there should be a little bit, they should lean a little bit more towards something that has broad use rather than specific use. But those specific use ones in there need to stay to some degree because they do kind of create really fun moments. Speaking of fun moments, I had a good one reading Bebe's tweet longer, and it starts out very aggro. You can see warning, much anger in all caps, of course. But this first part, while fun, is not serious, and he even takes it. He even says that himself. If you scroll down, if you go through the layers of caps and rage, you do find a nugget of pretty great twitlonger, and I think a great commentary on sort of the pro scene of TFT and how, in his opinion, we need to be focusing on ways to help professional tournament players build brands around themselves, make people stay. And he even suggests something that, I think we've talked about a lot on the show, which is ongoing tournaments rather than things sporadically throughout the season. Have stuff where people can see these players come back, week after week and play and get attached to styles, get attached to personalities, build brands. I totally agree with that sentiment. So it was interesting hearing it the way that he put it out there.
Yeah, I think it's hard to disagree that storylines make tournaments more compelling, right? Like the most recent Challenger series, there's 2 players that everyone expected to go through, which we'll talk about later. It was Noobowl and Soju, and that made the final day really interesting to watch. The final lobby was particularly tense to watch, unless you were a Noobowl fan, you knew he was through. But for Soju in particular, it was very tense whether or not he would go through because the dude almost punted his regional chances away by going 7th that game and then had to get bailed out by other people trying hard in his plays. And I think that kind of gripping story is what's really missing in a lot of TFT tournaments because I feel like the stakes aren't really there. And that's kind of the core of what Baby is trying to communicate. He just says that there needs to be more buildup of the superstar in TFT and a little bit less about kind of how wacky and random and how fun it could be sometimes, even though he recognizes it's really important for the growth. And that's actually one thing that stood out to me is that it feels like a little bit of a mature stance from Bebe compared to before, where he just kind of complained a lot about the variance in the game.
Yeah.
Now he kind of feels like he's coming from a perspective that he understands the variance and why it's really important for the game's success in order for that to be the case. But he also wants tournaments to potentially focus more on building up the players, which can't really disagree there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard to make many high stake events though. I feel like given limited resources, right? Like right now we have like 2 worlds a year with a significant prize pool, which is pretty cool. But I guess it's just like a lot of downtime if you're looking at it like a week by week thing, a month by month thing. There's just gonna be a lot of downtime. They try spreading it out this format, right? With like a lot of like mini tournaments that sort of culminate in like bigger tournaments. But the mini tournaments just don't have that feeling of like, oh, this is something I'm really excited to be a part of. They're just more like, oh, I had to participate in this time consuming thing, you know what I mean? So it's just like the trade-off there. And it's hard to solve. Like more prize pool obviously would be great, but I mean there's no like, you know, it's a marketing thing. Is it really worth it? So who knows?
Well, that's you know, and that's the other thing too, is that there's kind of this like, you know, catch-22 where people talk about the viewership, especially for English language TFT, and it's like, well, it's not high, so Riot should invest, but then, you know, it's not gonna get higher as quickly if the investment isn't there, so it's kind of this sort of vicious cycle thing. But I do think, and I'll say it one last time, that I think the GiantSlayer series was the best TFT Esports we've ever had, because we had it week to week. People came back to see the same players they liked, you know, play over and over again. What were they going to try this week based on their performance last week? You had personalities coming out, play styles that people could get attached to. But we can take it one step further where we can attach, you know, like first place bounties or something like that, which I think we did have for a little while, where you would get extra money for winning a first, but we could just have like a little extra cash for each place in the lobby, or even just like top 4 or something. So even if it gets to a point late in the regular season or whatever, where people arguably, quote unquote, don't have anything to play for, they can still go for that little extra cash for the bounty, so people can still try and show up, you know? And then that leads obviously into like playoffs, which leads into an exciting finals lobby, because it's a culmination of something that's going on. But that bounty system and the building of personalities, if it's done right on the broadcast side week to week, I think alleviates a lot of that. So that's a big commitment on all parties to do it, which is why we don't see it, you know, really anymore. But I always hope that at some point we'll be able to kind of get back to that, because that was great, and I think that was when TFT operated best as an esport. But that's my TED talk.
Yeah. I have many thoughts. I've been deep in the tank. I've been deep in the tank thinking about optimal TFT formats, and I'm pretty happy with one major idea that I've landed upon, but it's not fully fleshed out yet. And when that time comes, I'm gonna do a lot to try to push it and see if Riot likes it and if the public likes it. But it's pretty different. It's very different from how we do things right now.
All right, I will ask you about that after the show. I'm very curious. I want to ask you about it right now.
I have the core skeleton outline, but
all right,
put in a nice deck and maybe talk about it.
I want to hear this. But for now, I want to move on to our next and last segment of news, and that is all about releasing the tech. That's right. This was a tweet as we move on here from Mismatched Socks, where you say, where basically the 2-star Sivir tech, yeah, I'm not going to call it a leak, but this is something that's always blown my mind, that TFT players will play these in-houses, which happened today even, in-houses to get ready for the NA regionals, and there's just a lot of sharing of what people are trying, and sure, you can kind of hold stuff back to yourself, but it feels like a lot of players are just kind of okay with people knowing what they're gonna do or what they're thinking of doing going into event. Now Noobowl, I can't remember. We talked about this before the show, but I can't remember what we said. Did you play in the in-houses today?
I played in a couple of them, yeah.
Okay. Do you worry that people are learning too much about... I mean, they have tons of VODs to study of you playing TFT, but do you worry that for this event this weekend, people might learn a little bit too much from those?
I mean, sometimes. I don't really play super seriously when I play on stream. And I haven't been playing that seriously in analysis. It's more like, I feel like playing competitive TFT, the most valuable thing you can do is watching. In part because what you learn, it doesn't get seen by everyone else. Like, you're always playing 8-player lobbies no matter what. So it's just sort of impossible to hide anything. You know what I mean? It's just, I guess, being low key, but sometimes it just doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, In this case, Sox sort of just publicized it really aggressively. So yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
this is
much.
something that like I think is also a product of this fact that the competitive scene hasn't really developed. If there were, a lot, let's just throw it out there. If there were millions of dollars on the line, there would be no chance that Sox would be teaching the greater TFT player base about how to play Silver correctly. He'd be very financially motivated to not. But also at the same time, that's a nice thing because, the whole point of TFT is for everyone to play with perfect information out there, and then you're supposed to make decisions that are pretty tough. And Sox sharing his knowledge has always been one of the best things about having Sox in the scene is that he puts out these TFT Academy videos on his YouTube, that he helps you understand positioning nuance, right?
Mhm.
And that kind of stuff makes people more intrigued to learn more about the game. If anything, it was important that Sox did it to push the meta forward so that we can evolve. And it's not even necessarily just Sox, it's Dish Soap and Ramblin pushing AP as much as they do in the North American scene and teaching people that there is another half of the tree that people can play instead of just all AD stuff that everyone was talking about for the first 2 weeks of this patch. So there's pros and cons to it for sure. But the winners of it are the fans. The fans get to learn how to play Sivir, and they have more diversity in terms of their arsenal. And the fans also get to laugh at Sox for like the rest of his career, because if he doesn't do well at regionals, we can point to this exact moment and make fun of Sox until the end of time. So win-win for us.
So sad. I kind of I think too, if there's, like you said, if there's more money in the scene, like people wouldn't do that. But then I think we'd also see more organizations picking up more TFT players too. So then, say Team Liquid or some other org has 8 TFT players, then you can just do the StarCraft thing and just run in-houses and hide everything, right? And you're going to go get out there and play on the ladder and do that kind of stuff too. But I'm waiting for the first esports org out there that's brave enough to pick up 8 TFT players and just practice in-houses, and see how that goes. I'm very curious what that would result in,
Team Liquid's almost there. Team Liquid's almost there.
Yeah, I'm
they have like
telling
6 or something like
that's why I brought them up. They're close. Just commit, Team Liquid. Victor, I know you're out there. Steve, commit. Pick up a couple more TFT players. Start the in-houses. I think you'll be pleased with the results, but no guarantees.
I mean, what happens to the all in this final lobby together, though?
I mean,
Save
then we just see who
It's
wins,
own
right?
after
And we
scene.
just don't talk about collusion or anything, It's easy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's easy. Yep, it's all about the narrative. All right, anyway, moving on to everybody's favorite segment. It's Agree. So our first Agree question of the day is going to be: Armories introduce healthier forms of variance and player agency than augments. Noobowl, agree?
It depends what you mean by healthier. I don't think it's healthier for the game, no. I feel like augments I feel like just have are so much more fun. And really that's the most important thing. So probably not. I mean, I think augments just allow you to do more cool effects. Armories seems they're they're the same thing at the end of the day. Like you can think of armories as just like augments, but instead of items components. But item components are a lot less fun than, for example, getting archangels on your AP board or something like that. So.
True. All right, so disagree for Noobowl. Dan?
Yeah, I disagree with this as well. I think that even at its best form of armories, where it introduced you like 3 different types of things, I think it's like an example of an armory that currently exists in set 6 is in Double Up. You get an armory to choose to send to your teammate, and it could be a component or it can be gold, right? And sometimes that continues to evolve as the game goes on. I think that's pretty interesting, and I think they can introduce healthier forms of variance. When it wasn't healthy was when you could get things like a Nico's help in armories. That was not really cool at all, because it was worth sometimes up to 40 to 50 gold in certain tight spots. So I think people have a really fond memory of what they like. I have no doubt. Okay, put me on record right now. Sometime in set 7.5 or set 8, people are going to talk about things they loved about 6.5. They're going to talk about how like certain carriers are really cool. Like they missed Draven from 6.5, where he did like this crazy VIP go infinite thing. They missed the design of Silco. They love all these like cool different interactions that like from certain augments that were introduced. They're gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna call them out. Just be like, you guys, nonstop waves of twit longers, just whining endlessly and complaining. But that's just how it is. You're telling me that one of the defining mechanics from one of the worst sets of TFT history has to introduce healthier forms of variance when it almost killed the game? I don't think so. It's not Armory's fault. It's not Armory's fault that Set 5 was bad. But I'm just telling you that people tend to remember the good parts and then just like ignore all the bad parts when they look upon the past. And I think when it comes to Armories, they're really forgetting some of the unhealthy parts of the game that it introduced. So
I 100% agree with the disagreement that has been stated by the other two people in this show right now. And I was even saying this when we were planning the show on Monday that like I think one of the big reasons people hate on 6.5 is purely because the honeymoon phase of 6.0 and of gizmos and gadgets is over, and now they're like pining for the good old days, as we often do. Nostalgia gives us those rose-colored glasses, right? And like I think that's hitting the scene right now, and it seems like it always does. I think it's very difficult to make a mid-set likable by everybody, because that is going to be right around when people are going to start to like miss whatever was in the last set. And just sort of like the novelty wears off, you know? So I think that's a big part of what's affecting 6.5. And like I do wish these particular augments were a little bit different than they are, but still 6.5 is easily one of my favorite sets ever in TFT. That's not going to change, and so I don't think armories are healthier. So that's a disagree from me. I think it was a disagree from chat as well. So we're all agreed in our disagreement. How nice. Moving on.
It was an easy one. It was an easy one.
I think it was. We start out with the easy one today. Question number 2. What's it going to be? It is going to be, despite complaints about formats and qualifiers, the best TFT players will end up succeeding in qualifying for Worlds. Noobowl, as someone who's about to be trying to qualify for Worlds yourself, agree?
I mean, it's by variance, honestly. I feel like usually the good TFT players make it to the top, and it's like, I guess they might just look the best because they're winning. I feel like a lot about TFT is if you win, you look good. If you lose, you look bad. It's like kind of binary there. So whoever ends up winning, I'll probably be like, oh wow, they're absolutely insane at the game. But who knows? You know what I mean? But I mean, set 5, I think really good players qualified. Set 4, I think really good players qualified. So yeah, probably. I think so.
All right. So agree from Noobowl. Frodan, what do you think?
This sentence had me up until the last word. It really had me until the last word. I'm pretty sure if we changed the word from worlds to regionals, it would be the easiest degree, because the best players do tend to qualify for regionals every single time, regardless of maybe we missed one or two. But when we talk about the best TFT players, we're talking about the best as a concept, right? The best is a group of players who've established that they are a cut above the rest. And they tend to overwhelmingly be represented. If the best TFT players didn't qualify for regionals, we would have DoA and myself be at the regional championship, because we're considerably worse than these players and players around our skill level. Now, that's not to say that the Master GM dream is unattainable, right? Sometimes we do have a couple of them represented, and it's important that they are represented in that group of players that's participating in these tournaments. But Worlds is, you're talking about like regionals, which is a weekend tournament. So I gotta disagree only because of that last word. If it just said regionals, I would 100% be on board. But you kind of lost me there, unfortunately.
All right. Interesting. So what surprises me about that statement then, and I think I'm actually going to agree with this one, is that if you're saying it NA regionals easy agree, then that means that the best players from the region are in NA regionals, so that means that only some of the best players can make it to Worlds, right? It's a subsegment of those players. So I feel like it's just kind of, that we can get good players there either way.
I got you. Okay,
all right,
so the reason why is because there is this concept of the best. The best are players who are going to qualify for regionals because they are able to do really well on ladder and tournaments and any kind of variation thereof. But within the top 24, DoA, there's also the best within that group. And that is not where I believe that they will always end up qualifying for Worlds. The best players in regionals often don't qualify for Worlds. So I think that it's a little bit hard to say. And the reason why is because it's a 1 weekend sample size. If they had regionals with the 24 players and they play 10 tournaments, then the best players would be going to Worlds, in my opinion. But that's not what regionals is testing. Regionals is testing how good is your preparation and your skills, and obviously how lucky you are that weekend. But it's a mixture of all those things that end up coming to the equation.
All right. Fair
Cannot convince
enough.
me
Fair
that
enough.
all 24 players at regionals are equally skilled. You cannot convince me that's the case.
I think they are close enough in skill that the results at Worlds would not differ hugely depending on what two players from regionals went through. And that now, of course, there are always going to be individual cases, but I feel like it's going to be pretty similar at that level. We're talking like tiny percentage points there. So, but we can, you know, you're the one with the one of the tier list talk show though, so I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's disagreement in the chat. Mortalk says no one knows who the best is the 24, and then Bryce chimes in and says, I know who's the top 24. So I think this is really funny that like there's so much conviction about it, and maybe if anything, disagreed. Let's punt this to another podcast where we can talk about the quality of each players in the top 24. We can talk about some other time.
I'll jump in. Agree. Question number 3. TFT should do month-long patches more often. Coming off of this one right now. What do you think, Noobowl?
I mean, I guess you can probably fit it in. I think it's just a lot of variance on the dev side, though. You don't really know if you're going to have an actual good patch or you're going to have like another Warwick type patch. Or you're going to have another patch which is even harder to fix, So it's like... It probably should be done though, to be honest, to test it out some more, because I feel like it's only been done like really few times, honestly, like less than 5 times at least. I feel like so it probably should be tested more, but it's just always like I guess it would just always feel risky locking. It feels risky locking in anything into production, like when you're sending it out for an entire month with like the assertion that you're not going to change anything is just going to feel even riskier. So probably agree, but yeah.
All right, so a slight agree. Do you want like both symbols in there? Do you want to do like agree and disagree, or do you want to commit to agree?
I mean, I think it should be done. I think it should be tested more. It's just like it's just gonna suck a few times, I think. But I think it should be done more.
We'll give you both then. We'll give you both. That sounds appropriate. What do you think, Frodan?
Yeah, no, this is kind of a misunderstood, or rather, we should probably reframe this question in general. What is a month-long patch? Is this a month-long patch? Because I'm pretty sure we just released a C patch, which means it's 3 patches into one major patch cycle. But at its core, I think the question is asking, could TFT afford to change less often? And I think the answer is yes. I think this exact patch would be one of the premier examples, because at the very start of it, it was AD dominated. A lot of people were playing the Irelias and Draven. People were talking about how AP was just not really viable because there just wasn't many carries of it. And slowly but surely, the patch has gone through a full development cycle where, people started playing other different comps, other rerolls, new comps started surfacing. Even right now, people are experimenting with different carries, right? Instead of just Malzahar and Ari, and sometimes top ending with Victor Silco, some people are trying Misfortune reroll and trying her as an AP carry. So there actually is innovation being pushed. We don't get that chance very often to do it in a meaningful way unless the devs just straight up push it. And it's fun, to be able to be the first to really discover that, because that really gives a section of the player base an identity in TFT. Like they are the group, they are the players that are willing to find stuff before other players do, because no one wants to innovate. They just want to copy for the free LP. So I think TFT should experiment with longer patches in general. This is an agree for me. I think that they could afford to do it. I wouldn't want to do it more than maybe once per set, but I think there's definitely room. And I guess as Mort says in chat, as long as it's good. Agree as long as it's good.
Sure. For me, this is an easy agree, because like I've said many times on this show that I wish there was more time between patches because of a lot of things Dan just said. I like to see people be forced with something and then find a way around it, find a way to innovate and challenge what are considered the top comps and all that kind of stuff. So in a perfect world for me, I would love patches to be released with the intent of being a 3-week or a 4-week patch, and then if we end up with something like War Week, right, then we patch it, right? If a legitimate problem arises, we adjust, right? But aside from that, we just kind of like let it go and see what the players come up with. So I would love it if every patch was released with the intent of being a 3 or 4 week patch, and then change as needed. But so easy agree with me. I wanted this for a long time. So yeah, chat. I didn't see what chat said. The poll is over. We'll see what the little check mark happens in the bottom right in a moment. Did any of you catch it? What did the poll say?
Did not catch it.
No, I didn't catch it either. But maybe
We'll
the
assume
mods
they
will
agree.
tell us later on. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. We'll assume they agreed for now. But we do have one more agree question. There it is. Oh, chat agreed. Okay, good. All right, I thought so. I knew I liked chat. There you go. Our producer says she just doesn't know. All right, well,
most
good
people,
enough.
Most
yeah.
people said no. Most people said no. There's a disagreement.
Oh, all right, interesting. Well, you're all wrong. Let's move on to agree question number 4. It is known as, the question phrase is, the state of 6.5 Neon Knights is augment diff, aka your results are basically determined by being offered the right augment. Noobowl, agree?
Oh, that's unlucky. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree right now. I know more dogs probably maybe watching, but right now playing competitively, it does feel like there are a lot of extreme augments in a lot of extreme situations. If you're playing any type of reroll comp, honestly, there's so many extreme augments right now that you can win a game. You can just get into a completely winnable state off of just one augment. Like sharpshooters, for example, and twin shot. There's a bunch of assassin augments. There's just a bunch of random things that are just a lot more powerful over the curve in this specific situation. And those cases are sort of just augment diff, I mean, in some ways. In that, like, if you play that game a million times over, it's just going to be based on if you hit that augment or not. A lot of the time, your placement will change.
Okay, well, that's an agree from Noobowl. Frodan, what's your opinion on this one? Agree?
It's unfortunately I agree as well. I think that the reason why is because 6.5 has introduced a lot of high-powered augments that because there's so many of them that they appear a lot more frequently and skew the lobby. Like Noobowl said, a twin shot comp that has sharpshooter versus not is oceans apart in terms of how well they can perform. He mentioned assassins like Cutthroat, right, and Smoke Bomb. These like really important assassin-based augments. Like I haven't seen Talon do well unless they hit one of these insane combinations of assassins. But when they do, they kind of steamroll the lobby, and it feels like the balance is only there because you don't hit it. If that makes sense. The augments, like if you have an augment that when you hit it averages a 3.0, but when you don't hit, you average a 5.0. It looks okay in the data, so to speak, in terms of what people evaluate the power level to be. And again, Riot has more precise data, so I'm sure they're evaluating certain things. All of this is to say is that this set, it feels impossible to balance. It's not that Riot isn't trying. It's not that they haven't put a good foot forward. It's not that they have even bad ideas to try to fix it. They've clearly tried to do some good things to it, but it just feels like an impossible equation to solve. And we just have to live with that. And, in some ways, it's kind of okay because sometimes in these strategy games, you just want to do some broken stuff. Like maybe it's not that deep. We're not trying to find a perfect 4.5 across the board with every augment. That would be boring. Sometimes you just want crazy, wild stuff to happen. It's okay that high 5 exists because sometimes you just get like a 2-star victor out of nowhere. And then that just like saves your game. And that's a story you can remember. And I think that's what is the caveat to all of this, is that people are ignoring this side of the argument completely. They're forgetting when they talks about augment diff, they're forgetting about how TFT is a game of stories, and they don't really factor that in when they're just complaining about the state of balance in augments. So I would say that I agree, but I also feel like 6.5 is still a ton of fun, and that's the most important thing above everything else. I'm having a lot of fun compared to most other sets in TFT.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that relates to what I was going to say with this too. So give me an agree for the top professional level, but also give me an X for disagree. Give me both, because I think while we look at this a lot in the context of the very, very tip top of play in TFT, we have to remember that that's like 0.001% of the player base, right? The vast majority of players are gold or below, I believe, right? Or plat or below. So in that case, this augment balance that we're talking about, it's if you are not a GM challenger player, arguably master player, it's probably not going to affect you, right? that much, because people in your lobbies and you yourself are going to be making so many other mistakes throughout the game that it's going to, you know, take away the strength of hitting those certain augments. So if you think I'm saying you're bad, it's true. I'm there too. I'm feeling this because I haven't you know, sadly I haven't gotten past Diamond 2 this set. I just haven't played enough games, but I'm still having a ton of fun, like Dan said, because for me this augment thing doesn't really affect me that much, right? Because there's so many other factors in my games as far as like level of play that don't exist in the tournaments because people are just worse, that I don't feel that as much. So while this is an agree from the tip-top tournament side of things, it's a disagree for basically everybody who just plays the game to have fun, which is the vast majority of TFT players. So, you know, while this is a thing, again, like at the top level, I'm not super concerned about it. I'm still enjoying it. That's it. That's all I got.
DoA just dropped a very polite DTI YDK. Just like you don't get to say augment diff until you like reach a certain rank. That's basically what DoA
Yeah.
is.
I am saying that. Like, I don't think I've ever had a game where I've been like, oh man, like I played perfectly, but my augments, dude, oh, it's so rough, you know? I'd be challenger if it weren't for these augments. It's like, no, I got a lot more problems. But there you go.
Fair enough.
That's it. I'm just being honest, you know. I think if you're not honest with yourself and your level of play, you take away so much enjoyment from, you know, your ladder experience. So why would I do that to myself? You shouldn't do that to yourself either. Let's move on to the next segment. It's everybody's favorite segment, of course. It's going to be esports. That's right. And we're going to look at some Challenger Series results first. It's going to be, I'm sorry, it's Augment. That's what I meant to say. It's Disintegrator.
Oh,
this
man,
is one we
on
talked
that
about
note.
earlier. That's right, on that note, yeah. We remember champions, not augments. So we got to pick a champion to remove from the set and explain why. We'll get to esports in a moment, don't worry. Noobowl, you're the guest, so you have to go first. Congratulations.
Okay, I need to think about some more. Okay, you know the champion I feel like I hate the most? It's probably Senna. I actually hate Senna so much. I feel like
Really?
Senna like pretends to almost be a support unit, but like she requires 3 items and then she's just a carry, and like I just don't really get why she's an enchanter. Like I just feel like you could have done something more cool with the slot, basically. And like maybe she'd be better in a different set with different traits. But when you're removing a lot of like utility units and then you reintroduce a unit like Senna, I don't know. I just dislike it. I also hate the fact that when you play Senna, like you can't play Senna half your games because the hex is in a really bad location. So like it's like there's like she just feels like a weird champion there. I think she might be fine. Honestly, the champ might be fine in a different set with different traits, but you know.
Yeah, I can see
not in this configuration. I don't like her. Something about it.
Interesting. I was not expecting that answer, but I think you articulated it very well. Apparently, according to the list, I'm next. So I will just go with Blitzcrank, which kind of breaks my heart in a way, because Blitzcrank is my absolute favorite champion to play on Summoner's Rift, and it has been for a decade now. But in TFT, I'm always happy when it's not a Blitzcrank set, right? Like we have Blitz in TFT. There are Blitzcrank sets and there are non-Blitzcrank sets, right? And there's a very big difference in how you play the game. Maybe it's a little bit of laziness, but I just don't want to have to worry that much if people aren't building Zephyrs about my cornered, carries in the back lines, right? And so I don't know. I just like when I don't have to worry about that. It's purely a personal thing. It's not a game balance thing at all. But let's get rid of Blitzcrank, you know? Or how about this? Next time Blitzcrank is in a set, let's give him a different ability, you know? We're using 2 of them, right? We're using the Rocket Grab and we're using the Uppercut, right? Let's use one of his other abilities. Let's use his ult or something.
His silence?
You know? Yeah. Well, I don't know if we want that, but you know, we use something. It's something else, you know?
How about his taunt? How about instead Blitzcrank doesn't do anything. When he's 20 at 20 mana, and then whenever he gets to 20 mana, he just laughs with his robot voice.
Yep.
Also taunting.
Yeah, that's what he does, and he's a 5-cost.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep. And a socialite.
Yeah, because he's basically the same power level as Kaisa then at that point.
Pretty much. Yep. All right.
Kaisa,
you're
the
up.
ultimate victory cigar right now. What do I want to remove. Can I choose 2 answers? I want Syndra and Singe because somehow these units have perfect accuracy to throw to the bottom right and trap my Vex and my Morgana between 2 of my carries. I don't know how this happens every single time, but if my favorite football team, the Seattle Seahawks, could hire a kicker as good as Syndra and Singe just fling straight to that corner every single time and trap her between my units, whether it's like Malzahar Lulu or whether it's like Draven or something, it's just somehow always perfect right between it, and then my front line doesn't do anything for the rest of the fight. It just tilts me. And you know what's so crazy is that like whenever I have Singe or Syndra, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. My Syndra is trying to fling like a frontline unit that has QSL, or it tries to do Cho'Gath, or it doesn't do anything.
Galio.
Anything. She doesn't throw any of that. There's an Echo with a Frozen Heart in my backline. Syndra just ignores her for some whatever reason and targets the Irelia somehow, dodging to my battlefield. I'm so upset by how they fling stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Wow. I'm glad we could be here for you as you got that out. It sounds like that's been building for a long time.
It's so upsetting because I like triple item. I have like Redemption, Bramble, Declaw, and then just like flip it to the whoops. Oh, is that your front line?
I've had it happen.
Just got stuck as well in the corner sometimes, which is just like the worst. Like what's the point of
So
that?
we got to bring back set 3 Cinder, right? That's the answer?
Sure. I'm okay.
We'll see about that.
All right. I just thought I'd throw that one out there. You know, I had a lot of fun with that champ in that set. But now it's time. That was a fun augment, actually. I enjoyed that one greatly. But now it is time, for real, to move on to our segment known as Esports. No dash. And there's some Challenger Series results. Hey, there's a familiar face. It's Soju. Oh, I meant Noobowl as well. So Noobowl and Soju make it through to NA Challengers. Noobowl, you basically crushed the final day. It was not even close. Soju, though, finally making good on his promises to Dan, apparently before every tournament, from what I've heard, saying it was free. He finally gets through, gets to NA Regionals. But first, I'm going to ask Noobowl. Obviously had a good experience, but kind of take us through your weekend with Challenger Series.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't really that prepped going to the tournament. I mean, it's kind of hard to prepare for TFT tournaments, to be honest, but
sure.
In that particular case, I don't think I did too well on day 1. Didn't really know what's going on. I guess day 2, though, I just felt a lot better. Even on the first game, I went 5th, but I felt like I played it pretty well, so I just felt pretty confident for the rest of the games. Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty solid.
I think it was 4 firsts in a row is more than pretty solid. That's very solid.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, I like I alluded to at the beginning of this. You know, sometimes Soju just messages you things, like saying about his anticipated results in a tournament. Did he message you before this one?
Yeah, he said that he's gonna win. Like it's like Challenger Series already locked up. You already know, etc. I didn't believe him. I thought he was. I was already mentally prepared for his second twit longer, which is kind of wild. You know, usually you just 1 twit longer is enough. But I was kind of
1% usually, yeah.
But you know, Soju has quadrupled down. He said that if he gets day 1 in regionals, he's quitting the game. So I'm not sure if he actually means that, but you know, he's putting. I think part of it is that he's trying to psych himself up, tries to get himself pumped up, and put pressure on himself to succeed because he expects himself to do so. That's what makes him fun to watch. If anything, I kind of wish more players did that because you know they want to set lower expectations. Look at Milk, for example. Milk is the complete inverse of Soju. He will never say that he's got everything locked down. He'll always say he's lost, he doesn't know what to do, or if he does, he's just gonna like do this one strategy, 20 out of 20, and just like hope that he does well. But in reality, Milk is extremely prepared, even for regionals right now. I'm sure he'll say like, I don't know anything about what to do, but he's actually very prepared, and he will do well. So I'm excited for it. I think also Challenger Series was a special tournament just to watch because there's so many cool storylines going into it. Yes, Noobowl and Soju were the favorites, but they weren't guaranteed, and Noobowl had a dominant performance. Soju had a dramatic qualification. We had an all-queer desk with Jirachi, Casanova, and Boopasaurus, who also did great. I thought Boop did exceptionally well. It's some of the best performance I've seen them do. And so it was a really, really cool tournament overall that just showed that TFT tournaments can be special and really hype. And so I enjoyed it from a fan perspective. And usually I watch these tournaments and I'm like, oh, I wish I could cast. And it was like one of the tournaments I watched. I was like, wow, that was just a great product. And I didn't think about anything else. So it's great.
It was fun.
Yeah,
I
no, the
rewatched
casts
some
are
of it today.
awesome.
Yeah.
The casts
Do you
are awesome.
do you go back and watch some of the casts after the tournament?
I watched a little bit. I was just watching some spots again, in the VOD again. But yeah, I just remember, yeah, Jirachi and Casanova were really, really awesome casters. Yeah, hopefully they get to more opportunities for sure.
I'm sure they will.
It's pretty cool of Jiraiya's story as well, like how they transitioned from like a player into this casting realm. I feel like TFT, I feel like a lot of other games that's more common, but TFT hasn't really had many occurrences of that yet, at least recently. So that's pretty awesome.
Would you ever consider doing that if you reach a point where you say your pro career is over? Would you ever want to get on the desk? Want to get behind the mic?
I don't think I would be great in a professional casting environment. It's more fun, I feel like, to co-cast and so on up. But the professional cast, I'll leave for others to prepare and rehearse for.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun on this side for sure. But yeah, it was a great tournament. It was fun to watch. I sat down and watched a bunch of it this afternoon. And one of the things that I liked about it too is that we saw it was kind of a great battle of a lot of up and coming talent in NA as well. We had players like Malala. We had players like Deepay that I mentioned earlier. You know, talk about a player who made a big transition, like going from a coach of an Overwatch League team to a TFT player. That's a pretty big change. You know, usually you see it the other way, right? It's player to kind of behind the mic or behind the scenes role. You don't usually see people go the opposite, right? I mean, we've got, obviously Bryce out there going from lawyer to caster. Eventually he's going to close the firm, I think, and just go fully into it. It's a much more stable business, I'm sure, so that's inevitable. But it's neat to see people make those transitions. But yeah, it was a great time.
We'll see. Don't quit your day job, Bryce. Don't quit your day job.
It was a good time for sure. But let's move on in esports. We have the Rising Legends finals coming up from March 25th through 27th. And it'll be interesting to see who makes it through here because there's a lot of players that we've seen before. Obviously, Double, our Set 3 world champion. We've got Possible, another player from France that kind of... So, I mean, honestly, I could go through and list probably at least 40 to 50%, if not more, of these players that I've enjoyed watching in previous tournaments. So I think we're going to get some good representation at Worlds, for sure.
Yeah, you see the usual suspects. Voltairix, who's one of France's best. Dasik from Russia, able to be there. Shout out to Unid. Kane, who did really well in the World Championships. Last set really impressed me. I just want to give a special shout out to some homies, especially from the Hearthstone. Faeli, who qualified from Super Brawl. You can see at the top name there. And number 12, Aqua Wonder from Spain. These are my Hearthstone bros, my Hearthstone homies. They used to be pro gamers. Noobowl mentioned that, he made a name for himself back in Hearthstone. It's cool to see some of them transition over in EU. Also, special out to Alex M, who's also been doing a ton of work, streaming and grinding all the time. I know he's wanted it really badly, so I hope that he does well.
Yeah, awesome. The EU finals are always fun to watch afterwards. So
yeah, super stack.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's the format as well, in case you were curious. It's pretty standard from what I can see, unless I'm missing something. 32-16, 8, 6 rounds per day. Yeah, top 5 this time though.
Exactly. The big thing is that EU gets 5 spots. They are the biggest Western region just by population, so they get the most slots.
Makes sense.
So it's cool that they do. And honestly, we probably could give EU 7 to 8 slots just to make up for all the travesty that's happened in the previous sets, and I'd be okay with it emotionally. I wouldn't be happy about it for competitive balance reasons, but I'd be okay with it.
All right.
Yeah, they no longer have eggs as a prize pool. So.
It's gotten a little bit better since then. They can still buy them if they want to, but they get the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's also a last chance qualifier, which kind of was surprising news. I didn't expect this kind of thing to happen. Just to read this will provide another 2 spots at Worlds from players coming together from a lot of different regions, actually. So that in itself is going to be a really neat tournament to watch. It's going to have very high stakes. It's going to be one of our few international tournaments that we've seen. So that'll be pretty fun. I'm psyched for that.
Yeah. My prediction is that this last chance qualifier event might actually be the most hyped TFT tournament yet. It actually might even outshine Worlds because winning Worlds is really exciting for sure. But the desperation to make it to Worlds is even bigger for a lot of these players, right? Because some of them, when they get to the world stage, they're just kind of happy to be there, for quite frankly. Like some of them don't actually expect to compete. But in the last chance qualifier, there's no weak player because everybody, it's like the best that didn't qualify. And oftentimes that's just the straight up best players from that region. So you might see like a quality event that might be pound for pound higher quality than world championships, which is really, really interesting to watch. Last chance is always some of the most fun in any esport, period. And in games of variance in particular, they're not only crucial, but extremely exciting to watch. So I can't wait.
Yeah, tournaments where it's just like do or die are just so fun to watch. Like, so yeah, this one will be one to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think
you know when it's happening.
March 25th to 27th is what I saw there a moment ago. There we go. Yep. Yeah.
No.
Last chance.
That's when regionals is happening. This is when regionals is happening. Last chance is happening later.
Oh, you're right.
They haven't announced it when. They just said that it's going to happen.
Okay. Well, never mind. Moving on to the information about the regional finals, which will be this weekend, actually, in just a couple days. It's gonna be fun. We've got a great list of players. We're going to have Noobowl rank them later, so we'll hold off on any of that kind of conversation there. But I'm hyped. I think there's so many awesome stories coming to this one. We talked about with Challenger Series too, but like this as well. I mean, go to the TFT Twitter. They've started releasing some content, giving a little bit of background on some of these players. It's fun to go and read if you want to catch up and kind of get ready for regionals. But it's going to be a great time for sure. It's been announced, so we're actually not leaking it for once. Like Dan and I are two of the casters for that. That's going to be a ton of fun. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm incredibly hyped for this.
Noobowl, on a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared do you feel for this event?
Right now, probably like an 8. I don't think I'm gonna be changing my strategy much from here until regionals. So
okay,
pretty good.
I'll play some more games, but yeah, I mean, it's basically it. If it works, it works.
Have you ever felt like a 10 before a tournament?
Usually, I feel like a lot much worse going in.
Oh.
I think most prepped I was so back in set 4 for regionals. It was a 2-week event. There's a first weekend and second weekend. The first weekend, I had like 0 prep. It was god awful. Second weekend, I think was probably my most prepped. But yeah, here right now I feel like pretty close to the second week. So like pretty prepped up, but we'll see if it works.
Interesting. I want to ask your opinions on individual players, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the next segment is for. So
we'll get to that.
I'll save it.
Yep. One more esports topic to talk about before we get to that lovely, lovely segment. It is going to be info that just came out this afternoon. I think it was either this morning or this afternoon. It is info about the TFT Gizmos and Gadgets World Championships. That's right. We've been wondering about the information that we've been seeking, and here it is. And it's pretty great, actually. A bigger prize pool, but even more exciting than I think is a larger amount of players. We get to see a lot of players represented from a lot of different regions. NA is up to 4. One of the ones I'm particularly hyped about is that Japan is sending 2 players now instead of 1. Japan's player has made it to the final lobby every time so far, so I think there's a lot of talent in that region. I'm excited to see 2 players from it instead of just 1. But here's the graphic, and we've even got the 2 last chance qualifiers for Korean players. Like, I'm just happy it's a bigger tournament. I always thought it should be. I'm happy we're up to 32 now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's just cool to see more players, more chances. I think we really get to thank Mort Dog for increasing number of slots. I think they directly consulted him. I think Mort was even trying to potentially push for fewer cutoffs. You know, it does feel worse to play only one day of the World Championship, play 6 games, and then get kicked out. Like maybe in the future we have the opportunity to have day 1 and day 2 and then cut and then see who's able to do better over larger sample size. But for now, this is a good step in the right direction. And with more, the one thing that could be complained about is if you had more slots but kept the same amount of prize money, they end up scaling it up a little bit, which is a really nice gesture. So overall, they're trying to take the right steps, I think, and that's what's important. We're trending up.
Right. It is nice to see. Go ahead.
I think it's a lot better for sure. A lot better. Definitely more fun when there's more players, I think, and more days. So yeah.
I'll echo what Dan said too, where I think the next step is to just make a larger, longer event as far as like giving more of a sample size, especially in the first couple days. You can see it is 3 days. It's going to be April 29th, 30th, and 31st. It is 6 games per day, which I'm trying to remember. I feel like we had 5 in the past, so that might even be up. I might be misremembering that, but I think that is a little bit higher than it was in the past, which is a good thing. But I too would like to see more days. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I think the longer a TFT tournament is stretched out, you know, the obviously better indication we get of who are the best players. That said, on the production size, that also increases the budget exponentially, and you know, it seems like budgets for these kinds of things are, you know, maybe not quite where they should be yet. So any sort of increase to that, it seems like it's going to be a hard ask, but hopefully we can get there. And you know, the more people that watch and the more people that get interested, you know, that'll help that happen. But either way, it should be a great event.
I'm just glad we got something announced, really, because quite frankly, it was becoming difficult to plan anything in April because I had to keep so many potential weekends open of like what ends up happening from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just like one of these things where I'm glad we got it announced. Can we please announce it a little earlier next time, Riot? It'd be great, just so that we can all plan around it. You know.
As a freelancer who likes to book things in advance as possible, it is sure nice when you know more than, you know, a month. But
it's everybody involved.
That's esports.
Once we got it.
It's
esports.
It's
production, it's the staff, it's the casters, it's the players, it's the fans, right? Like, what if some fans really want to watch it and then all of a sudden they plan like a trip vacation or something around spring break,
right?
And they can't actually participate in watching festivities. It just feels like you want to give something for people to look forward to.
Mm.
Yeah, like it should be months in advance for sure, but I mean, they're improving it.
I will say, to be fair, I could see a scenario, and I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I could see a scenario where, you know, there was a hope that there would be a LAN thing for this, and, you know, that hope was extended to the point where when the decision had to be made to run it like this, it just was a little bit short in terms of getting the information out there too. I think with the very sort of unsure nature of the relationship of in-person esports events and COVID right now, like I think that's probably still having an impact on how these things are planned. But you know, to be fair, that might be a factor too.
Yeah, that could be a factor. I think my best guess is that they didn't give any indication that Last Chance Qualifier was going to happen. This is the first time that any of us had really heard about it, and it's very surprising given that we have insider knowledge. And so my guess is that they really tried to do it the right way by saying, hey, let's increase the number of slots. Let's do an LCQ. But in order to do that, that pushed back a lot of their ability to announce because they didn't have the details finalized. And to do something of this scale, when I say at this scale, it means a global scale. You need all the regions on board. It's not something that Riot HQ in Santa Monica, California can unilaterally make. They have to get China on board. They get Brazil and Latin America on board, and Europe. And if you've never worked in an international office before, sometimes it just takes a week to just get this conversation started because of time zones and how people communicate at their own pace on top of the normal work. So that's my guess as to why things got delayed as much as they did. And if so, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
It's possible. Yeah. I think we do need to be fair, you know. We try to be objective anyway. Yeah. Do you have a wild theory? Like any guesses you want to make, Noobowl?
Oh, I mean, I think Dan's theory makes a lot of sense. Actually, this was probably pretty last minute, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad they did it though. I'm glad they made the change to this format. Though.
It's good that we've got it. It's good that we've
took the time to do it right. That's huge.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's finally time to move on to everybody's favorite segment. It is the tier list, and we're gonna do the NA Regionals tier list this time around. So, unlike last time, we know all of the players that are going to be in the NA Regionals now. So, Noobowl, what's your tier list? You can do it in any order. You can move things around. Just let us know. The floor is yours. Right. The tier list is yours.
I did not prepare a tier list, so I'll just be I'll be winging this.
So disappointed.
All right, I'll make it as a tier list of who I would be most surprised for if they didn't qualify. I think not necessarily. I don't think this necessarily means that they're the best players.
Sure.
Because generally tournaments are about prep. I think. All right.
That makes sense.
I think number one. I think I'll put Milk.
Okay.
Because I think I would be surprised if he didn't make it.
Going back to Worlds.
I think he's preparing a lot. And
Milk guy.
I think he'll have a good handle on the meta at the time.
It's pretty interesting take. I don't think most people put Milk at number 1, but you're just kind of rattling off names. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that like has a good like, I don't know. I think he's just a good tournament player, to be honest. He's very solid in tournaments, and I mean, this is the tournament, so that's gonna translate well, I think.
All right.
I think some people might disagree, but.
All right. Well, who's the person that you'd be second most surprised to not make it?
I think a lot of people are having weaknesses right now. In defining and like figuring out the meta. Someone. I think Nontom's doing pretty. I think Nontom will do well. I think he's also putting a lot of prep in, and sometimes he flames out in tournaments. But I'm not really sure what happened in set 6. I didn't watch that much, but I guess he did really well in like. Oh, he did really well in ladder, right? I don't know. I think he'll do well.
Okay.
He's been doing well in analysis, even though analysis aren't the most important. It just seems like he has a good idea of what he wants to play. And I think that's honestly the more important part of... You don't necessarily have to be the best player, you just have to know what you're going to play. That's some...
Where would you go on this list? Are you ready to place yourself on this one? Are you going to place yourself on this one?
I don't know if I'll place myself on this one. Maybe I'll save it for the end. I'm not really sure. A lot of other players, I'm not sure how they're going to do on this patch. I think, I mean, just like players like Ramblin' and Sox, who I think are very good players. The main issue right now, I think, is that I'm not really confident in what they're gonna play. To be honest, I'm not sure if they're confident in what they're gonna play, and confidence matters a lot. I think number 3 is okay. I'll put Robin. I guess I'll put Robin. He did well last set.
All right. Yeah.
And
I think Robin's in my very high up my list as well. I think he's extremely consistent in tournaments, and he does seem to have pretty good beat on things.
Right. Actually, I think I'll put Sasuke above Robin in this case, but Robin number 4. I think Sasuke.
All right.
I don't think. Yeah, we'll see. I think Sasuke will do fine. Hopefully. He's been playing a lot. And yeah, I mean, I think he's done really well in tournaments in set 6. So things work out. I'm not confident how well I'll do. Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't very confident.
You said you were just at an 8. Wait, what's going on? Did you downgrade from an 8 during the show here?
Okay. I think number 5. I mean, like, the thing is, people are very, like, there's a lot of close players, I think. Number 5, I'll put Ramblin', I guess. I'm not really sure what he's gonna play right now, but I know he's been doing a lot of prep. Maybe he'll get it together, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't say that he doesn't have it together right now. Maybe he does. But I think he was gonna try and play a lot of AP before, and I think he might have switched it up. So it's always kind of weird. Yeah, I'm talking about Sox, not myself. Earlier.
Okay.
I'll put Sox after Ramblin'. Sox is well in step 4, and I think he's prepping. He is prepping to some amount this time. Maybe if he just hits step every game, he'll do well.
Secret's out. Haven't you seen the tweet?
Yes. Maybe the medal shipped away.
I mean, Sox has hit rank 1 also, so like he's clearly putting time in. Like, again, you gotta take everything with a grain of salt. Ladder's softer than usual. In-houses don't matter the most. But you know, if you factor into the totality of it, plus the fact that he's innovating the meta, Sox is definitely a player to watch for sure.
Another player with world's experience too.
Yeah, I think Spicy Yappies can make it for sure as number 7. Yeah, I think it's Spicy Appy's up with 7. He's pretty consistent, I think. And he can definitely just roll pretty well, and I think he'll make it for sure. Number 8. Number 8, I think I'll put Noster.
Whoa,
Okay.
that was the most spicy take of all so far. Wow.
I mean, I think Noster's pretty good. I think he's pretty good. I think he knows what he wants to play as well. And I mean, again, I think tournaments are about knowing what you want to play, and it being a good thing that you want to play. Those are the two main things that are important. And I think he's one of the people who actually have that down.
Noster definitely has strong convictions on what he wants to play in tournaments. He's got like 3 or 4 comps, and he will learn them.
I kind of don't think I kind of don't like a lot of his takes, to be honest, but I think he's very strong about his takes, and that's pretty good.
Wow, that's also pretty interesting. So you don't agree with a lot of his conclusions, but yet you still rank him highly. That's so interesting.
I don't think I agree with a lot of people, to be fair. Right now, so we'll see what I do, but
Oh man,
Yeah.
we need you. Is it cool if I DM you and ask you more, so you don't leak anything before a tournament?
Sure.
That's true. That's true. You do have to be careful not to leak right now.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's good.
Interesting.
I think I would have ranked Dish Soap on this list somewhere earlier.
You still can. You can move people around if you want.
Yes, but I think Dish Soap is changing up his tech. He's changing up his stuff at the very last minute, which kind of. Otherwise, I think I would put him up there. But shout out to him though. I'll put Soji next. It's great. Soji's been doing a lot of prep.
Yeah.
He's been doing well. He's been doing well, and I think he could make it for sure. I think he just plays really linearly. It's the main issue. He doesn't really do anything super fancy. I think he's more of like an executor. You know, he just does.
So interesting. I feel the exact opposite about Soju, which is really funny. I think
Really?
I think in tournament he gets too fancy, and that he's like doing too many weird things, and just like if he just stopped being so like weird in some of his lines that he takes and how he executes it, he would just be so much better off. Like he puts himself in tough situations all the time, in my opinion. But
When I watch Soju, I just watch someone who's like, yeah, like I mean, like sometimes he does weird stuff on ladder, and like maybe that translates to tournaments sometimes. But I feel like in tournaments he cares about, all he does is execute a thing he likes, which is sort of like Milk, I guess. So I mean, maybe I should rank them closer together.
1 and 9, yeah.
Well, who do you think is better at it? You know, that's the
Milk
thing.
by a landslide.
I wasn't asking you.
By a landslide. Oh, sorry. I thought...
But thank you. I value your input though.
Yeah.
I think for last spot, yeah, sure, I'll put Goobums, I guess. Sure. I think he has a chance to do well.
Very
Has a
humble.
chance to do
You
well.
didn't even.
I'm not
make
sure
your
if
own
he
list.
will like. Oh, I'll put myself last. I'll just insert myself somewhere.
Okay.
But I think Goobums will do. I think Goobums definitely has a chance to do well. I just don't know what he's playing, to be honest. So, who knows? You know, I like honestly, like I'm ranking people as players, but I'm also ranking them based on what I think they're gonna play and whether that's gonna do well.
All right.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
and then I'll rank myself last. I think for myself, I feel pretty confident going to this regionals, to be honest. That said, I don't know if I'll do well, but I'll rank myself. I think I'll put myself number 3, and just push everyone else down.
Oh. Okay.
All right, so Goobums gets knocked off the list.
Oh, sorry. Goobums.
Okay.
Just jumped in.
Excellent. No, this is great timing because
but-
he just showed up in chat, so
Yeah.
he gets to see himself get a glimmer of hope and then smited by Noobowl.
Oh,
Yeah.
Looks like you're just gonna
But,
occupy the same spot as Setsuko. We can imagine it.
That's totally cool. Sorry for the producers. I realize probably shifting every number is annoying, but I think yeah, I feel pretty prepped. Honestly, maybe I'll flame out because what I'm playing is bad, but I think I'll be doing stuff that's different from people. So I think that's also pretty good in tournaments, is to do stuff that isn't the same. Yeah, that's my list. I think
All right. Cool.
might be controversial.
I like
it's
it.
your
It's
list.
very different.
It is
It's very
perfect for
different
you.
than a lot of people. I don't think people would put non-Tom anywhere near the top 10 in terms of most of their lists. Like maybe they put him maybe at the very bottom, but to put him second is such a bold take. And then Noster above a lot of the other players as well is particularly fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot to break down. I think is I can't take too much more time because this is so fascinating to me. But I like this. I like this list a lot.
Save this for the other podcast. There you go. Well, it's a wonderful list, but it's time to move on. It's time to move on to the mailbag segment. And so, while you answer as we take a look at the tier list one last time, but as you read or as you respond and think about the question, I'll also have you check out chat because we're going to ask Twitch chat, which is over here on my monitor, to ask questions as well because a Noobowl is going to be picking one to answer, and then you get a $10 gift certificate, and that's pretty cool. So ask your questions to Noobowl. In the meantime, we have from Lair or Lere, or however it's pronounced, as TFT's best mobile player. Obviously, you're well known for your mobile TFT experience. Just go along with this. How do you think TFT can best improve their mobile experience? So it's an interesting question. I'm curious about this one.
So I have so many games on mobile at challenger level because when my PC broke during set 6, I was just playing on mobile instead. So the thing about playing on mobile is that you can't move your units. That's not really part of the game for you anymore. You kind of just it's sort of like every unit has sniper's nest. You can think of it like that. Yeah, I mean like I think it's I think it'd be nicer if it felt if it didn't crash just much. That'd be nice. Every time my internet went down for a little bit, it just completely crashed. So that kind of sucked. Number 2 though, I think it would be nice if it was just a little bit smoother for stuff like Tom Kench like beating. I stopped playing Tom Kench during set 6 because every time I tried to beat him, I would swap the unit every time, and then I would just lose the fight because instead of having my TK2, I would have a Caitlyn 1. So yeah, that was unlucky.
That's a unique, exquisite pain. Wow.
I will say that there's some aspects about mobile that is actually even better than PC, just from a couple of like UI experiences. Like for one thing, carousel, like showing the items that you have is really nice. You don't have to like move the carousel, then look back at your own bench and battlefield and evaluate what's going on. You just have it on the side at all times. That's nice. And there's a couple of like things like that that make the mobile UI surprisingly like a better experience in some ways than the than the PC experience.
I definitely prefer PC, but
don't get me wrong, I prefer PC by a mile.
Yeah, but it's very playable on mobile at least. It's like Noobowl said, it's hard to move things around quickly, and it's all the issues you would expect to have with a touch interface, a small touch interface with it. But it's very playable. I haven't played a ton of games on mobile, but I do have it on my phone. I do play it every once in a while. So there's that. But I'm curious, if you could change, maybe you were going to answer this anyway, but if you could change one part of the UI, what would it be?
One part of the UI, it's a lot of information to fit on the screen, and it gets pretty small. Maybe it's just because I'm playing on the phone. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like a little bit hard to say. I mean, maybe there's something cool you could do where like you could click an item, for example, and then you could bring up a menu and just click the unit you want to drop it on directly. Like you wouldn't have to drag it. Like right now, dragging is fine in PC because you can be pretty accurate, but in mobile, it's always a pain. So it'd be cool like if you like click the item on your bench, and then it would just bring up a menu with all like 9 champions, and you can just click whichever one you want.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah. Just have like a
anything that makes it less
on your board. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that makes it less draggy and more clicky, I think is generally better for these kind of interfaces. Because dragging is just so hard. It's just such a hard gesture.
I agree. That's interesting. Oh, because I like it, so I'm sure they're gonna find ways to improve it. But it is playable. But yeah, PC always better, of course.
I'm glad they built it from the ground up. Basically, I think the TFT client, the TFT on PC UI just has a lot of issues because I think it's basically just built on top of League, so it's just sort of
Yeah.
has a lot of redundancy, like legacy stuff there. But I think this one's a lot more smooth.
It's like a small thing about mobile that I love that has zero relevance to almost anybody else out there, but redeeming rewards for your battle pass is like 10 times faster on mobile than it is on PC. On PC, you have to click on every single window and click like redeem as it brings up another menu. But on mobile, you just click through so fast and it just redeems into your account immediately. No flashy animations, no windows. So I'm just like, boom, 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 done. So it's actually funny because I log on to mobile for TFT just to claim my battle pass. So I don't have to do it for like 3.5, 4 minutes on PC.
Also, friend list management. You can do it instantly on mobile. On PC, it takes forever.
True.
Interesting. Well, have you had a chance to look at the questions that are in the Discord right now, as far as chat questions to answer? Have you been able to check
a little bit?
All right. What appeals to you?
I guess I'll take Kendry's question, which was what uniform ult sets do you want to bring back the most?
Okay.
Although I have no idea what my answer is.
Okay.
And the below question is why is it Galaxy Lulu? Yeah, it's probably not Galaxy Lulu. What unit? Do you guys want to answer that first? If you have any ideas.
Oh, we're answering this now.
Okay. So one champion immediately jumped out to mind. It is Azir from Set 4. Still one of my favorite champions of all time.
That's a great choice.
I think that he was like just so interesting for what he brought to the table. And since we have target dummy augments and things like Dark Star and One for All exist in the game, probably less healthy. But overall, I really like what he brought to the table. It was so complex and cool, and also he could still do some really cool things and carry as well in the right circumstances. So that's probably one champion I miss a lot from Set 4.
It's a tough choice.
Yeah.
I really liked Bard because he had such a unique ability. Like, there's never really been a champion before or after Bard that was like that. And so I'd love to see him come back just because it changed a lot of how you approach the game if you had the option to pick him up early, especially. And I don't know if I want him back in the exact same way, because there were pros and cons, of course, with Bard, but like it was really cool. So I would love to see Bard come back at some point. Yeah. Or something
cool.
Bard like.
Cool. I think this might not be my favorite unit, to be honest, but someone I can think of the most right now. I really like Xayah from Set 4.5. Honestly, I think she had some really cool fights. She sort of felt like Ari right from now, and that like she can sometimes 1v9, and it's just a really cool effects on the board. Basically, the fights are just funner, and like I like the fact that you can both backline, frontline, do a lot of positioning stuff. So it's just a fun unit.
I agree.
You're talking about the keeper version of Xayah from Set
keeper
4.
version, Set 4 Xayah,
Yeah, that's right. Because when you said Xayah, I panicked. I thought you went from Set 3, where she was a 1 cost, and you just reroll her, and she would just basically attack faster. I did not miss that Xayah. She can say exactly where she came from.
Yeah. Set 4 cost Xayah was much more interesting.
Yes.
But But. So Kane Andrew, thanks for or K Andrew. Kane Drew, is it K Andrew or Kane Drew?
I think it's Kane Drew.
Could be, because I mean you've got a little bit of League of Legends association there. Could be either one. Yeah. Either way, congratulations, you were chosen by Noobowl, and enjoy your gift certificate. That's great. But that brings us to the end of the show. There's some stuff to talk about. There's some stuff coming up. And the biggest thing is going to be, well, maybe not the biggest thing, but one of the big things is going to be, we do the regional finals. I'm sorry, Dan, but Don't Talk If You Don't Know, March 24th. It's going to be tomorrow. What do you want to add to that? Who is next to? Oh, is it Robin who's going to be on there? Oh, I didn't even look at the name. And I just guessed.
That's correct. We have,
sorry, Robin.
Bryce, myself, and our guest. We're having a dual guest this time with Soju and Robin, little Cloud9 Team Liquid action. It'll be fun. We're going to do a breakdown of separate rankings. So we get to compare casters versus player rankings. So Robin and Soju will be building their own 1 to 24 list. Bryce and I already built our own 1 to 24 list. We're going to compare and contrast and argue a lot. Then we're going to have Soju and Robin grade each other. There's a report card segment in the podcast where they grade each other's skills. That'll be really fun. So it'll be like, how good does Robin think Soju's early game is? How good does Soju think Robin's AP play is, etc. And then we're going to do a fantasy draft, which will be really fun because all 4 of us are going to have to pick 6 players and see who gets the bragging rights of being the most knowledgeable insider in North American TFT. So that's going to be the agenda for tomorrow. So I hope you guys tune in. It's going to be really fun.
That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that one. Noobowl, have you had a chance to catch the show? Would you like to
no, it's a really great show.
He's a panelist now. Or he was a panelist. He was
a
panelist.
I was.
And then, like, whenever you want to come back, man, let me know. Because we need more.
Okay.
So you didn't kick him out.
Maybe
It's a voluntary thing.
Then.
Okay. I see. I see. All right. Well, that kind of brings us to our last big thing, which is this weekend. It's going to be the NA Regional Finals. And that is going to be great. It's going to be an awesome tournament. We really do have the best of the best in NA there. It's very difficult to predict who's going to go through, despite the tier list that Noobowl made a little bit earlier. It's going to be an awesome tournament. Any final thoughts about going into that one this weekend, Noobowl?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, just like any final last comments on playing in that this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun. This time I'm actually really excited for it. Last time, I participated in 2 regionals so far, set 4, set 5. Both of them I was terrified going in. This time, just gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a good time.
Cool. All right, I'm glad to hear that. I feel like people play better when they have that, sort of, they've been able to shake off the nerves. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah. And we're casting that one. Not together, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be casting alongside Bryce and Admirable. It's the same crew as we had the previous set, and overall, I'm just excited. I'm a little bummed we don't get to be back in studio. I really think, 5.5 regionals is just my favorite TFT tournament to cast so far because it's just a different energy that you get for being in studio. And I'll just say it, I'm a better caster in live studio than I am in my own bedroom. And I'm glad that people enjoy my commentary thus far, but please, if we can get back in studio, I think you haven't seen anything yet. I feel like TFT is just on the precipice of something really special. And I hope we get more opportunities, more LANs, more studio events. Please.
Yeah. Totally agree. I'm looking forward to it, but I am really bummed that we're not going to be in the studio again. Even at the crazy hours we were in the studio, well, actually it wasn't that bad, but it was a lot more fun being in person. And Dan's right. Everyone's better when they're in person. Like the interactions with your co-casters is so much more natural. There's many reasons, but either way, it is going to be a good time. But Rito, please. Anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Time to get some final thoughts. Noobowl, you've been an awesome guest. It's been a really, really fun time. Any final shout-outs, comments, anything you want to add before we close this thing out?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to everyone streaming still, to be honest. It's been really, I've been watching so much TFT lately. Like Dan's stream, when he VOD reviews people, that's really fun to watch. I'm in so many streams right now, so just shout out to everyone, I guess. It's really the TFT community I love so much, to be honest, because it's just so awesome and inclusive. So, yeah.
Well said. Dan, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing exactly what we're about to. I'm going to do a VOD review stream right after the show to just continue to prepare for regionals. I take it extremely seriously about what these players are doing because they're trying their hearts out. So I want to make sure I represent them well. So I'll be streaming on my channel, and I think Noobowl streamed today, so I get to actually review some of his games. So you can skip that part, Noobowl, if you don't want to join.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, it's been an awesome show as usual. I have a bit of an announcement. This will be my last Teamfight Talk show for the foreseeable future. I have a new gig that is still unannounced, probably going to be announced tomorrow, starting next week, that will unfortunately overlap with the time. And so after 41 episodes, I'm going to be emptying the spot for someone else to fill it. And whoever does is going to be awesome, and the show is going to continue to be awesome. It has been an absolute pleasure doing the show with you, Dan, for a long time now. It feels like a really long time. It's been great, hanging out with all the fans. This does not mean, for the record, that I am moving away from TFT or anything like that. I'm still going to have my weekends very free. I still intend to do as much TFT as I possibly can. I want to make sure people know that. But unfortunately, Teamfight Talkshow isn't going to fit into my schedule again for the foreseeable future. Hopefully, I'll get to come back at some point, you know, and I'm going to qualify for regionals or something. Who knows? Or some reason. We'll make some reason up. But yeah, it's been great.
DoA, we actually have a surprise for you.
What?
We have a little going away video that everyone put together.
What?
It's a way to thank you for hosting this talk show and being a big part of the team.
I had no idea
DoA,
this was
I'm
coming.
super happy to hear about your new opportunity, but I'm very sad to know that you will no longer be on Teamfight Talkshow. You are, have been, and always will be a huge part of Wisdom and GiantSlayer. Thank you so much for almost 2 years of Teamfight Talkshow, and I look forward to seeing you at our future events.
So we are going to miss you here at the Teamfight Talk Show. All of the insight and amazing content you have provided cannot be replaced, but we're so excited to see what you're going to do next and what your future projects are.
Hey DoA, I heard you're leaving us and I'm super bummed out about it. We're definitely going to miss you. I hope I get to work with you again in the future soon, and I hope you enjoy where your journey takes you next.
DoA, you are one of the most talented casters I've met, and I've loved working on Talk Show with you. I'm going to miss you, but I look forward to all the amazing projects you work on in the future. Good luck.
Hey DoA, big fan. I really enjoyed working with you on the Teamfight Talk Show and observing the way that you create conversations about the game and the players with so much passion. I'm really gonna miss you, and I'm wishing you good luck on your future, and hopefully we can work together on more shows.
Congratulations, DoA. We wish you the absolute best of luck. Thank you for everything you've done and all the effort you've put into this, but also thanks for helping me get out of gold.
Wow, did I really help him get out of gold? Wow, I'm kind of speechless. Thank you, everybody. It's I seriously, like, the team at Wisdom, like the team at GiantSlayer is easily, and I'm not just saying this because they made a nice video about me. I really do mean this. Like, the team over there is just one of the best groups of esports people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. They make great content. Their hearts are in the right place, and getting to do the show has been easily one of the highlights. It's been a big bright spot in difficult pandemic years, you know, as we've all been struggling. I've really looked forward to doing this show every week, so I will miss it greatly. I'm sorry you had to sit there for all of that Noobowl. You didn't know you were in
It's okay. It's really heartwarming.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you could share this moment with us, but it's been fantastic. Again, like, thanks to Dan. You and I have known each other for a lot of years, you know, back with Hearthstone, even back with a little bit of StarCraft 2, even way back when. So I'm sure we'll work together at, you know, well, we're working together this weekend, but I'm sure in other things in the future. But yeah, again, I should probably just let the show end so Noobowl and Dan can go and stream or eat or whatever they want to do. So I'll do that. Thanks again to all of you out there who watched. Thanks to Riot for making TFT. Again, I'm not going away. I'm just taking a leave of absence from the show, if it were, as it were, rather. But thanks so much for all the great memories. I can't wait to watch the next episode with whoever takes the spot. They're going to be awesome. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Stay safe. Be excellent to each other. Enjoy some TFT, and we'll see you this weekend at Regionals.